Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new Air Talk, the first Air Talk of the year. Woo! We're still here. Hopefully, this year we'll pick up a bit more again. So, today was my original idea was to talk about how speech recognition works and a bit more detail, the technical side. But then I just realized it's a lot of neural networks that we have talked about before and we will talk about in the future. So little by little I moved towards a more overview of the history and what are the different techniques, but without explaining a lot about the technical side of it. So without further ado, let's begin. Okay. So surprisingly, I was looking at the reading about it, and then I found out that actually this started in 1950s. So, so this is when computers were whole rooms, and they had vacuum tubes and all that stuff, fun stuff. And basically, Bell Labs, they're famous for phones. The telephone, and so they're the ones that started the first system. It works only on one person. So if you change the person, it stops working. And it was only single digit, so just one letter or one number. So this is how it started. It would recognize letters and numbers for the person that you trained the system for. And so not very useful. And later on, in the second and the third versions, started working with a vocabulary of around 10 words. So it worked with 10 words and only these 10 words. It wasn't until actually in the 1960s, so John Pierce, who's the co-creator of the PCM, Pulse, so it's forgot what it stands for, but everything, it's the method to turn analog signals into digital signals. So anything that we use nowadays with computers and phones is based on this. So this guy is a legend. So he was not convinced with speech recognition, and because he was so influential, all funding stopped after he sent this critical letter until after he retired, and then it picked up again. So yeah, because of him, I think partly technology was delayed maybe a couple of years. Maybe not, because the computers were not, even if the research was continued, computers were so slow that it wouldn't have made much difference, I think. Meanwhile, Raj Reddy, a guy at Stanford University, was the first to start tackling theory behind continuous recognition, not just, previously they had to say one word, stop, say another word, stop, for the algorithm to be able to recognize the words. Hello. Well, Dennis isn't here to appreciate this. Meanwhile, Soviet researchers, I don't know if you guys remember Kevin's research. He was talking about dividing the sound file into 10 millisecond intervals and just studying each 10 milliseconds. So the Soviet researchers were the ones that started this technique. And even though this dynamic time warping algorithm was outperformed very quickly, this part of it, this like time stamp, the time intervals continued on to different methods later on. But they were able to do 200-word vocabulary, so it's pretty good. Still, by that time, speakers, it only worked on the speaker that you trained the system on. So you couldn't train it on one person and have it work on another person. So in the 1970s and 80s, so in the 70s, the best computer had 4 megabytes of RAM. So it took 100 minutes to decode 30 seconds of speech. So as you can imagine, this is not very useful. It wasn't until the 90s where computers started being able to handle these, it had enough processing power to be able to handle speech recognition. And so that's when we started getting larger vocabularies, speaker independence, so we can train on one person and try to guess another person's speech. Noisy environments, so for computers, having noise at the same with people is really difficult to handle. And conversational speech, so faster speech with abbreviations and all that fun stuff. So for us, it's very easy and intuitive, but for machines, it's not so much. It wasn't until the 1990s that the first commercially successful system was implemented by AT&T. They had a automatic call routing service that did not use any human operators. So that was pretty big. In the 2000s, DARPA, which is the American Defense something Association, funded, actually most good research starts with the military, right? So they're the ones that funded the two programs. One of them, the first, had big companies like IBM and some big universities like Michigan and, Washington, and I forgot which other. And what they did was they just had a huge corpus of telephone conversations, 260 hours with 500 different speakers. The second program was focused on Arabic and Mandarin newscasts. In 2007, Google came in the picture with a telephone directory service, and they just collected all of this data. And now Google supports over 30 different languages. So they're one of the big ones. So as for the techniques, I'm going to talk about the two major ones that are still used now, and I'm just going to skip the ones that were before. So the first one, this was developed, the algorithm was developed in the 60s. It's called hidden Markov models. So basically, this example here is just it's a simpler example. We have a phone conversation between Alice and Bob. And Alice knows some information about the weather patterns. So here, if you see rainy and sunny, these are the two states that we have. She knows that if it's rainy today, there's a 70% chance that it will be rainy tomorrow, and there's a 30% chance that it will be sunny tomorrow. And the same for sunny, 60% and 40%. And she knows that she knows what Bob's patterns are. So she knows that if it's rainy, there's a 10% chance that Bob will go for a walk. There's a 40% chance that he will go shopping. And there's a 50% chance that he will clean his house. So she doesn't know currently what the weather is where Bob lives. But while talking to him on the phone, she knows what he's doing, and she needs to try to guess the weather where Bob is. So basically, there's a lot of math that goes behind this, behind the scene. If anyone's interested, let me know. I can give you some references and easy to understand, intuitive ways to understand this. But basically, what this hidden Markov model does is it tries to guess all of these percentages, knowing a pattern. So in speech, basically, you teach it on a couple of words or sentences, and these are the patterns, these are the outputs, and then it's going to try to get the inputs, which are the actual written words. And training it basically means trying to guess these percentages, and from there, try to recognize the speech. For anyone who remembers any of my previous talks, Monte Carlo methods are used here again. They're everywhere. And so the way this works is after we compute these percentages, we give it, someone talks, and it will give you the most likely sentence that the person spoke. It will give you a couple of sentences with percentages that there's a 90% chance that it was this sentence, 80% chance that it was this, etc. So this is pretty old, and currently it's still used now, but it's not very good. It's pretty good at shorter sentences and words, but not so good with big sentences. Then, obviously, everyone knows neural networks. So actually, the first time neural networks were used for this automatic speech recognition was in the 1980s. So this is really old. It is until now still used in some aspects of speech recognition. The mainly smaller sections of speech. So it's not good for long sentences. I'll explain a bit more why. And so it's really good for example, phenome classification. So, phoneme classification, which is difference between thumb and dumb. So, for example, in English, this is a big difference. For other languages, this is not the case. Another example is, for example, my name, Salah, and Sarah. For Japan, it's the same thing, but for us, they're two different things. So this is the study of these different letters in specific languages. It's called phoneme classification. I'm not sure. I gave some other examples, like in Arabic, taba'a and taba'a. So there's two different T's in Arabic. For English speakers, it's the same thing. And va versus ba. In Japan, V and B is the same thing. So you try to teach them va and ba. It's like impossible. It's also good for isolated word recognition. So just one word. This works really well. The reason why neural networks is not good for long sentences is because it doesn't remember long states. So it just knows shorter states and forgets what happened previously. So for example, if in a sentence there's C or C like looking and see the C, it doesn't have any context to recognize which word this is. So there's a 50% chance that it'll make a mistake in that one. So after that came deep feed-forward and recurrent neural networks. So what this does is, if you see the left side is the simple neural networks. You have your inputs and just a network and the outputs. As you can see here, there's not a lot of layers. On the right side is the deep learning neural networks. So what would happen here is where's the mouse? So on this side here, these would be this layer. So this would recognize words, for example, right? So this would recognize, I don't know, just simple words and the difference between the phonemes that we just talked about. This would recognize small structures. So then it like verb and a noun. And then each one would take the output from the previous one and recognize bigger and bigger chunks of speech. So this is why the deep learning actually will take the context of the sentence, and you'll get much better results because the context will give you more information about the words also. How do they train these layers, the first basic layers? They use what we saw previously, the hidden Markov models, to get estimations for these layers, and then they build a neural network on top of that. So these two methods are what currently most of the higher end, like the Google voice recognition and the Siri voice recognition, use these techniques currently. Usually this is how it works. There's one method that does something, another method does something else. Someone decides, let's put them together, and they realize that this is a huge, sometimes crazy, like 80% better results just by combining two different methods. So finally, talking about a couple of applications. I think we all know in-car systems, so that you don't have to use your hands while you're busy. For healthcare, there's a lot of different cases, usually working with disabled people that can't either type, or like the speech is hard to recognize by humans. Sometimes machines are better at this than us. Military, and for training air traffic controllers, apparently this is a big thing. In tech, we all have our phones. We all use, actually, I never use it. I think it's stupid. It's very funny when Edo always tries to use it and then totally fails. And in education also. So for people who are learning a second language, this helps them a lot with pronunciation and basically, yeah. And these are the main applications. There's a lot of other ones that are not really mainstream, but these are the main ones. And thank you. That's all. Any questions? No? Yes.
You don't like questions?
Yeah. Easier that way. All right. So next, Le Julien.
Yeah. Just slide, sorry. Hello. Isn't it? Okay. Thank you. You talk. It's about branding. Was supposed to do something about sneakers, but new year, new perspective. It's better to have something about brand, and it's a subject that we always talk about, but we never really cover. So, what's define a brand? First, okay, a brand is not a logo. Let's go straight. If you think a brand is a logo, it's like totally wrong on the way. A brand is a combination of like multiple things, only cover like 5. So promise, perception, and expectation, a persona, and an element. It's all of like different. What is promise of a brand is like what I can like give it to you. The perception, how you feel about this brand. If you have like 2 companies who making the same stuff, like I'm gonna take Apple and I don't know, Samsung, they're doing the same stuff. But the perception you have of these 2 brands are totally different, the opposite. It's like who you want to go on a date with. You're gonna have people who prefer to go with Apple and others want to go with Samsung. It's the expectation to like, if Rolls-Royce tomorrow just launch a $10,000 car, what do you expect? It's like, no, Rolls-Royce will never gonna do that. You expect something with a higher like higher price, with like mostly like better quality than if you go to like a lower brand. The persona, I would say like Apple, Microsoft, or even Samsung, they're all different. They have all of these companies have a different way to communicate with people. If you check on car like Mercedes, they never answer to customer quite often on Facebook because it's like kind of a high brand company. And the element, that's part we can cover later. So a brand is about people. So brand equal people, people equal brand. That means if you're like strong on the brand, you'll be the people who support your brand will be strong, and so your brand will be strong. That's like a box in a box in a box in a box. So from creator to people. So that's that's a small curve. So when you give something to people, so you build like the legitimacy, and actually the money is coming right after. So it's a bit concept who can take like 20 minutes just to explain. But the first people who speak about a brand, who starts speaking about an artist or something like that, they don't make money. But the guy who is just after start making money. It's a can debate about that later, but it's really complex to define. But we cover like the three people. So there is this. It's like separate in 3 kind of category. So the creator, so it's the people who creates the content. So for example, Apple is making smartphone. They were the first one. They put a trend. After that, all the company follow them. But they put a trend like, okay, it would be cool if we can have a phone with music, and so it's like touchable. It's a device. So they install a trend. They start making money. After you have that's the creative people. After you have, for Apple, this harder. So it's the people who believe in your brands. Those guys gonna be the hardest dude ever. It's for Apple is the guy who's gonna be in front of the store day one to get the iPhone. Whatever the new iPhone have, like, I don't know, nothing better to offer. But you don't care because it's this guy that you need for your brand. Because every time someone is gonna speak about your company, your brand, or whatever, even someone, is gonna say like, oh, they are the best one ever. And even like if you check for Apple, they release a statement about the battery, that the battery is slowing down each new version. They don't care, this guy, they're harder, because they're like, oh, that's fine, at least they say it. And they try to find an excuse to like make the brand still like cool, etc. Even if like all of these dudes from Android, they're like, oh, yo, dude, you see? Told you the battery was crap on an iPhone. It's like, yeah, but they are the first one. It's like Volkswagen, when they have this issue in Europe with the CO2
Emission.
yeah, the emission of CO2. Everyone's like, dude, you saw Volkswagen, they screw up, they tried to cheat on us. It's like, no, it's just the first guy who said and admit that it's going on. And I'm quite sure in like 6 months, maybe Samsung's gonna have the same one. But the harder is the guy that you want to have, because they believe in you, they believe in your brand, your company, or they believe in you as a person, because you can be a person and being a brand, like Logan Paul, if everyone knows. But so yeah, so yeah, this guy made like some fucked up video, but so everyone knows the story about Logan Paul and the suicide forest. So Logan Paul is a YouTuber, an American YouTuber who came in Japan. He did a video about the suicide forest. So he went there, and actually they shoot a body who was there, and he put everything on YouTube. So it was massive news coverage, and everyone was discussing like, hey, what the hell are you doing? It's so disrespectful, etc. The fact is that the dude gets 80K new subscriber on his YouTube channel after that. So it's a bit like strange, but it's coming till from the harder who are like, oh, but you know, he made a mistake, he's young, etc. But people that forget that the guy have like 15 people who work for him. So it's like, yeah, you're young, but you have like all the dudes who are working for you. After you have the people, so it's the guy who is coming late, it's the regular customer. So it's someone who is just like, okay, there is the new iPhone, I'm gonna wait, I mean, I'm not so into it, etc. And they just discover it, but people can become a harder, etc. And we can see that in every like kind of field. Even like, for example, cryptocurrency, you're gonna have people who start and say, oh, that's cool, I should invest there. And after they became harder, they believe more in cryptocurrency than even people who create it. It's like starting to be crazy. So how to be legit? Don't need to be first. You can start creating a new app later on, or a new like content or whatever. The idea is just to be smart and to innovate. So taking an idea and making it better. It's kind of like always working like this. So teach, give. So I'm gonna give a brand. So who recognizes this brand?
No.
Yep.
No.
Come on, JB, you know this brand. Don't be like the old dude who don't know this brand. So,
That's my brand.
you know this.
It's all part of it.
Yeah. So Supreme is a close company who was made during the 90s. He was targeting first the skateboarding like industry.
American?
Yeah, it's American. It's from New York. Actually, fun fact is that they have 10 shops, and they have like 6 shops only in Japan. So the market in Japan is really huge, because in Japan they have a lot of harder people who believe in this brand, and this is just starting to be crazy. But how they make it, it's like the product they sell are not like really innovative, but they will teach the community what they are selling. So they made this collaboration for Scarface. So it's basically a T-shirt with a Scarface like print. That's, I mean, something for people can be silly, because it costs like what, $5 to make, and they sell it like 40. So, but they explain like who is Scarface, what's the point, etc. They try to make it this for like every collab they do, like they do with Andres Serrano. I didn't know these dudes, and actually this is how they start to be legit, because they connect people, they create a collab, and when you learn something, you always come back. If you don't learn, it's like, yeah, what's the point to read this if I don't learn something? But if you can take something from an article, a video, something like that, you're gonna be likely like more coming back. So that's an example. They sell a brick with just the logo on it for $30 online. That's not a joke. And on resale, so there is this retail where you can buy at the shop, and you have resale, who is when you buy from someone who buy as a retail. It's going up to $1,000 for a brick like this, with just the logo. But that shows that this brand is so powerful, they can sell whatever they want, whenever they want, and they sold like a water gun. Like this is a plastic water gun, you just like blue and red, it's like $40. They sell it for like $200 on resale. So imagine like, and I saw like some, even some jackets, you can buy it for like, Command. They sell it like 4 or 5 times the price that you can have it in the store. But this way it's like powerful into its legitimacy, and as they can sell everything, they are like learning stuff to people. They have really truly harder. If you go in New York every Thursday, they sell new apparel. The line is just doing a loop around the block. Let's explain like how people believe in this brand and trust this brand, plus people who want to buy and resell for like that kind of price. And you have shops who just resell that. There is one in Shinjuku if you want, for people who want to spend some money.
Too much money.
Too much money.
Harders.
Yeah, harders. Yeah.
People.
I saw the sneakers I wanted was 20K, and now it's like Nijuman.
Jeez.
Why does it get so high? Is it because the series are limited?
Yeah, everything Supremes make is limited, and you have only like 10 shops that where you can get it. And it's I saw some stuff like just a T-shirt. It's called the box logo, so it's just the logo Supreme with camo. Resale is like $5,000, and you get it for like $30 at the shop.
Like how many of those T-shirts
50.
were produced?
50.
Okay, so they go.
Yeah, it's going really like that. So you have people who are ready to pay that amount of money. But I mean, they can sell it, so they do whatever they want. So responsibility. I'd say with great power comes great responsibility. Wrong, in a way. Actually, a brand is more likely to have bad news than having like good news. So I'm gonna take an example. Everyone know H&M, huge brand. I hate them. So, what is your feeling about this? So I'm gonna give like you have a kid. So some of you have kid, but will you buy this one? If yes, just raise the hand. Raise the hand. Hey, if you want, huh? Yeah. Okay. 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 Huh? No, I mean, imagine you have a son. He's like 6, 7. Will you buy it? So raise. Okay, stay with your hand. No, stay. Okay. If I show you this, will you still buy it?
No.
That's a black guy.
Yeah. But that's exactly the point. That's exactly the point. That's exactly the point. It's like, so for people who want to buy, will you still buy it or not?
If I would advertise that?
Yeah, it's. I will show you like how it was advertised.
I'm here now.
Yeah?
I mean, I would say.
I don't think it doesn't change.
Yeah, but
It doesn't change if you don't know the cultural context.
exactly. So the point is that that's what it was. So H&M made a release of some new sweatshirt with like coolest monkey in the jungle, and because they put like a black kid, it started getting crazy on Twitter. It's like, what the hell is going on? And I was like, dude, I mean, it's a sweatshirt. So based on the context, can give you like $100 to everyone. If the kid was white, nobody will give a damn shit. The context is really important. So when you create advertising and when you try to have, when you're making your brands, like right now you have to be more careful about the message you want to share. But in a way, I think it's a bit unfair because that means the brand are already like censored in a way. It's like, yeah, you cannot really do everything because if you do something who is borderline for some people, that means we have to like remove all of this work you did from the shop. Personally, I don't see any like racist or something like that. Even the kid's mother was like, what the hell? I mean,
whenever we think about the morale of this, do you think such events is good for the brand or bad for the brand?
For me, it's good.
In general.
In general, for a brand, the important matter is that they speak about you, that the light is on you. And as I say, Logan Paul did the worst video ever on YouTube, and he still get like 80K followers.
So if Donald Trump starts his line of T-shirts, probably it's gonna be mixed.
He's gonna have people because he already have harder people who believe in. I mean, he's president, so that means some people believe on what he's saying. And it's actually I have so. The idea is that people forget really fast. Still with HM, so who can tell me what is this?
Where they were making?
Is it? Where they make H&M clothes?
So 2013 or 2012, a few years ago. Yeah. So this is the factory where H&M is producing clothes in Bangladesh. I'm quite sure like everyone saw it on internet and nobody remember. Just the fact is that it was like more than 1,000 people dead, more than 2,000 people injured for a salary of $37 a month.
$37 a month. Depends on the country.
Huh?
I mean, in Bangladesh, can be a lot.
No, but that's not the point. The point is that people forget fast. But even that, you will be ready to go like and get it $37 a month. That's not even like the minimum salary in Bangladesh. You cannot live with that.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I work in the fashion.
Why are we working there?
I work in the fashion industry. We work with Bangladesh, and I know the salary we give to people to like not just survive, having a like good life. But that's different debates.
Why are we working there?
Huh? No, it's.
I mean, if you have other companies who pay
Just
more.
say they're underpaid, and they do it because of reasons.
And the pays.
You go.
Why do people work in the convenience?
Because they have nothing better.
Yeah.
That doesn't. If they have skills to go elsewhere and be paid
Maybe they
more,
know.
Okay, probably this number
But-
is irrelevant for the point.
Yeah, the money is not the point here, in a way. It's the fact that H&M didn't care about the security of the building. So when you have like more than 3,000 people injured or dead, you start having a conscience like, okay, maybe I shouldn't like support this brand or something like that. And it was working for like 2 weeks when it was on the news. And after that, people forget. And they're still making stuff in Bangladesh. It's not the point like the money, etc. It's more like, okay, as people, even if you do the war stuff, people will forget, especially when you're powerful. Because with public relationship, etc., you always came back with something new, etc. So it's more like, okay, do people will remember what you did wrong and what you did good. So every time you do something new, you can like renew your position.
The building on the right is still standing.
Yeah, but yeah, actually it's H&M, Zara, and some other companies. And for number 30% of everything who is produced in Bangladesh is produced by H&M. So that's a lot of
They are a big investor in the country.
Yeah.
We like it. No, but it's,
I can give you a book like this. So what about air? Because that's how I want to like finish. So video interview, we start having creators. So getting a presence on social media, having some articles going out, etc., etc. It's we start building. This part is one of the worst ones. Yeah.
Just to clarify, here in those three categories, the creators, harders, and people. So harders and people are on the user side, the creators is on our side, right?
No, it's just the stages of what we have now. In like blue.
I'm saying, are the creators?
We have that. We need this and this.
But are the creators on our side? Are we the creators?
Yeah, we are the creators
So,
first.
so the creators are always on the the brand side. And
No. Creators can be someone who is writing an article about you.
Okay.
That's
So we have like half of creators.
Okay.
We have the C maybe.
yeah. At the beginning,
And we're waiting for the creators.
actually, if you take the version of the slide, the first one was just like the C and the R, and the rest was that. But we have like the creator. We need like harder, like people really like okay, they believe in the brand and they want like the maximum to share it, even without doing something. So like I don't know, paying them, etc., etc. And for Ludo, we don't really have creators because we don't have any like social presence. We don't really have like huge article, etc. But we already have harders. So the 5 company who like send feedbacks, etc. Okay, we like what you do, and they report bugs. It's not, they don't like start spreading it, but the more and more we're gonna be involved on creating new game, etc., the more and more enthusiastic they're gonna be about Ludo. And so I think it's these people we should care for Ludo. So you already knew that brand, so and they may gonna be like people who like spread the word about Ludo and making Ludo like way more famous and successful as we have now. So I think that's quite the state of what we have now. Maybe wrong, that's just my personal opinion. Yeah. So thanks. Yes.
I have a question just to clarify on my side. I think the very first slide when you had like the 5 components of what a brand is, and I just wanted to get more detail on the difference between perceptions and expectations.
Yeah.
What's the difference between perception?
The perception is
If you could
the.
give an example on maybe like a brand.
Okay. Pick a brand, whatever the brand you want.
Let's say Apple.
Okay. I have this one in my. See? Mining. So, the perception of Apple. What is your perception of Apple? What is like, if I tell you Apple, what is coming in your mind?
I'm asking you the question now. You ask me a question.
Yeah, but that's the point.
I don't know. It's supposed to be simple.
See, simple, high-end company making great products,
Yeah, good quality.
good quality. So not the expectation. I'm telling you tomorrow. Okay, Apple is selling an iPhone for $100. What do you expect from this iPhone?
Like great, they could reduce their costs and buy it.
Reduce the cost?
Yeah.
You think? You really think so?
Yeah.
So the expectation is that if tomorrow Apple is saying it's $100 for an iPhone, you're gonna have people say, "Oh, that's great, it's affordable." But they did it for like the iPhone 5 something where they the color ones. And what happened is that the price was reduced, and like a lot of people, maybe everyone, said, "Oh, that should probably be shit because it costs nothing."
Yeah.
And the expectation is that the price the price whatever the expectation is that okay, if I pay this, I should have this. But if a brand is like starting to reduce the price for whatever, like even for a car,
But that's any brand.
Huh?
That's not specific to a brand. That's any brand.
Yeah,
If tomorrow Chanel reduces the price of their
if tomorrow Chanel
perfume,
give
and it's like, hey, that's like a $2 perfume. Yeah, it must feel like shit.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
any luxury brand might have this like price division, but apart from price, which is a common denominator for most high-end brand, well, again, what could it be specific to a specific brand? And price, I think,
in
is
general
more
you
generic,
mean? In general, so the expectation is like, for what you're gonna like ask, pay, or what the brand is gonna make, and what the costs of this. So whatever, like the currency, etc. If you pay a certain amount of money, you expect a certain like quality of the product.
So it's the relation between price and quality.
Yeah.
That you have for the brand.
In a way, yeah. So if you like pay more, or if the brand is more high-end, like Chanel, you're gonna pay more. So the expectation is like pretty high.
So expectation is more like price quality relationship, and perception is more like qualitative.
The perception is more how you see the brand, and what's the kind of reputation of the brand.
I don't know how to. Perception is like what is now. Expectation is what can you like is more future.
What's the result? Yeah.
It's like you have a certain way you think about Apple. You have a certain way of what they would be doing. Probably they're gonna be in a year there will be another iPhone, and it will just like be iteratively better. So it's like
So the
kind of a
perception.
trajectory you could expect. Or no.
So going back to this simple example, I mean, how about I think it's like simplicity is a perception. So okay, Apple's simple, right? Like I want that simplicity. I don't want something that is complex. So the expectation that you get something that's complex and it's coming from Apple, then affects, you know, the promise or the overall like, oh my gosh, Apple is turning into shit because it's too complex. So that expectation wasn't fulfilled. So the more that you do that, or the more that builds up, the
So
more
the
that
two are related.
yeah, then the more that it affects the overall.
I mean, all the five are related. Like the element is how, for example, if you take Tiffany's, this kind of green turquoise box. If tomorrow they change the color, you're gonna be like, yeah, but it's something more at Tiffany's because you know the color of this box. It's like even Nike, it's orange with the white logo. It's like if they change tomorrow, it's gonna be like, it's not. It's part of something like it's going wrong. So,
Great question. I don't know. How, I mean, with like this, you seem to be like attracted to controversy. Like the idea that brands have to be like controversial to get attention. Like, what do you think about that? Do you think that you think that everything should be sort of controversial to get that attention, to get hearters, or do you think it's possible not to be?
No, you shouldn't be like controversial because the idea is not to have friction with people you want to share stuff. I just think like if you're really like huge. So if I give H&M, okay, now H&M is gonna make clothes with biological cotton. Yeah, okay, that's good, but you already like expect that. You already think like, yeah, you're not the first one. You know, it's like, yeah, okay, you just did it. It's good because for the customer, it's great for him because he has better quality, etc. But when you have for this kind of huge corporation, kind of bad buzz, attract more like light on them than just having, oh yeah, okay, you did cotton, I mean organic cotton now, like, yeah, you're not the first one. But doing this, like, okay, kind of first one. But I hope and I truly believe that brand will not need to be controversial because they don't tend to be. I'm not sure the guy on the marketing wanted to be like, okay, we're gonna do a bad buzz, we're gonna do this and this. That's not. I hope it's not.
I wonder if that's actually intentional.
No, I really hope it's not planned.
Yeah.
Because that will make like a pretty like wrong move from H&M, and I think it just okay, that will be dope. Very cool to have this and see like how it's going. That's
going back to like the Trump example. It's like those are conscious. I
mean,
to be controversial gets him in the limelight, and that's like one of your things to be in the light.
Yeah.
You know? And so I'm wondering if we're spiraling into like using this type of, you know, matrix is good to outline like what it is, but it's just interesting to hear like the talk is really based on these 5 things, and not like, but the examples you chose are very highly controversial. So it's like,
yeah, but it's.
I wanted to ask the question.
I think it's like if I give just 2 like gentle examples, with the switch, I want to prove that coming from a good idea and a gentle idea, people transform it to like a hugely racist idea. And I don't like HCM for like multiple reasons, but I think like if I have a kid, I would still buy it because I think it's pretty cool. It's cool design. It's like cool text, and it's pretty out of the box. But yeah, people change it, so it's also this and the perception that HCM give that made them like, okay, we're gonna remove it from the shop.
One last question.
It was Fred or Ken? Fred or Ken?
Ken, I'll ask you afterwards.
Okay.
Two last questions.
So, with Air,
Yeah.
a lot of products that we're building, I mean, there are already a lot of brands out there. So should we be like very controversial to be in the limelight?
No,
no one's going to notice us.
No, I'm not saying we should be controversial, like not at all. We should create content for people outside, so article, videos, like a rich content, and for people to learn from that and see, okay, this company or this number of people, they know what they are talking about. So that means they are legit. So if they are legit and they after that sell a product, that means they create a product based on the legitimacy they have. So that means it should be a great product, and I should try it at least. So if you just run something and if you don't like legitimate about that, people will not really trust you. So it's kind of creating this trust.
Controversy is really bad.
No. I will not say like, it's just if I give 2 examples, like HCM was the last one that was showing online. So.
Last question.
2 questions in one. Can you be?
Come on, you can't do that.
No, they are related.
Yeah.
Do you always need harders to be successful?
Uh-huh.
And if so, how can we get harder for video interview?
That's a good question. See? No? Yeah, your mic is gonna die. So, getting harder, it's hard because it's so hard. So, it's really the first people we believe in you. So it can be like a first client, for example. So we have, for example, I think Henrotte is one of the harder now because they use it like every day. They are the first to use it. They try to spread the word around them. Getting harder, it's difficult to measure because it can even like come after especially in Japan, like when they are into something, into music. Sometimes they even know better stuff than people who are like there like 20 years ago. So harder doesn't mean that you have to be like there at the beginning of the project. I know people who know better stuff than me and they came after me.
So not necessarily related to early adopters.
No, it's not always like early adopters. It's mostly early adopters because they know your brand, they know well, and they follow you.
So how to get them? Because I get it for the example you showed. There was Supreme, and there was like a really like a 2C company, but for B2B and in a kind of the industry like HR is probably less harder to get.
I mean, if I had the answer of this one, I think we already have like 50 harders for video interviews. So I'm still trying to figure it out, and I know for like B2B it's hard, and for like B2C it's harder too because the competition is high. So the day I have the answer,
We'll be rich.
Yeah, and Japan will be rich.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Food.